Alright, tech enthusiasts, we are back with another madVR NV Extreme Mark II expose, and in this video I'm going to be showcasing elements of black bar detection, subtitle management, how the madVR is constantly analyzing the incoming image and makes aspect ratio and kind of image processing, image presentation adjustments to always keep things like subtitles, forced subtitles, and the like on the screen. I think this is one of the most key elements perhaps of wanting to have a video processor like the madVR in your home theater system, and especially poignant for those of us with extra wide scope cinematic presentation style screens. So we'll go over some of the settings, we'll show the detection and the adjustments that the madVR makes in action on some content, and hopefully this video helps you out if you're considering adding a video processor like the madVR to your system. I hope this information is useful to you, and check out a variety of the other expose, demonstration, kind of deep dive technical videos I have about the NV Extreme here on the channel. So without further ado, let's head over to the Techthusiasm home theater. Alright, so let's dive into this. First thing that we want to take a look at is the menus, the controls. So if I go to the general settings option of the madVR, and I go specifically to this black bars configuration, we can see a plethora of options to command and control the response, the detection, and everything about how the madVR is going to handle the presence, the identification of black bars, and extra information around what it identifies as the video image, the movie content, the TV show content itself. Now do keep in mind, if you want more information on all of the settings and options and configurations of the NV, I do have a separate video on that where I go over every menu, every setting. One other thing to mention as well is there's a separate video also about NLS and stretching and fitting the thrown image of the madVR to your screen. Check that one out. That pretty much is a prerequisite, I would say, to wanting to experiment with, set up, configure, and manage the black bar elements. So doing the black bar stuff, subtitle detection, and all of that already assumes a certain level of configuration and setup done between the projector and the screen in the system. All right, so here we go. Black bar detection speed. Very fast. We have a variety of options. I understand there's really no reason not to go with quicker detection here. Now, madVR communicates very specifically with the kaleidoscope, which is awesome. The kaleidoscope can deliberately tell the madVR when it's in content versus when it's in the menu system. Now we do have options for both small and large black bar detection. They kind of manage different things, and if we kind of follow the help, essentially, large black bar detection talks to us and it says, if you don't want to ever cut off any active image content, you can choose none for large black bar. This is what was generally recommended to me, was to focus on using small black bar detection. And if you want to take advantage of more, you really hate black bars, you can use the large. I'm okay with a little bit of black around the image, and I would prefer to manage my cutoff, my zooms, and all of that over in the NLS settings. So at least to date, I have been running with the large black bar detection set to none. But as I'll show you, both for things like Apple TV menus, which can be off the screen, and subtitle handling, it's the small black bar detection that's critical. Now here's where we can tune it. If black bars change, we can adjust at once, or we can pick a constant zoom. I do have more dynamic adjustment in there. And then in terms of how sensitive or what kind of essentially like a debounce do we want the madVR to apply, I do have it configured to adjust delayed and adjust only once every 2 seconds. And so what this means is as information off the screen, as black bar information is detected, if it comes and goes, you kind of just want it to not be so jumpy. So adding some delay, adding some hold, some stickiness as they call it down here for the subtitle options, I think makes a lot of sense, and it makes the response of the madVR feel perhaps a little bit less jarring when it makes an adjustment, it holds, and then it maybe makes an adjustment again. So the last options specifically are related to subtitles. There's options to control how much padding we want to apply, and I'm using settings here again that were largely recommended to me. However, the stickiness setting has more to do with your specific taste. As you can see, we have a lot of options, a number of seconds, it can be many minutes, or we can even specify all the way until the end of the movie. So if you're watching something that has subtitles that are coming in and out, and you're really sensitive to kind of the snap in, snap out jarring effect, and you're going to feel very jarred or very kind of taken out of the cinematic experience by that happening, you can increase the padding time. It also helps to help kind of smooth things over when characters are having conversations. If there's a pause in some dialogue, you don't necessarily want the image processing to be going snap in, snap out, snap in, snap out as a conversation is going back and forth. So I would recommend definitely some level of stickiness to kind of hold through a conversation, but it's up to you whether you want to have this hold for a shorter period of time or, again, one of those longer stretches. So those are all of our options. Let's see how some of them work in specific practice. All right, first thing that we're going to look at here is playing some content on the Apple TV and how the madVR can detect the menu system when the Apple TV overlay menus show up off the screen. So I'm going to have to do some blurring. Of course, we're going to be muted in terms of any video content. I don't want to have any takedowns. So I'm going to go ahead and start Empire Strikes Back. So this is a 240 scope movie. Give it a second here while a little bit of the negotiations and stuff happen. And we can see instantly we come up, we're filling the screen. I got a 163-inch 235:1 screen here, and it's looking pretty awesome. Now, the problem with the Apple TVs is the menu system shows up in the image space below the actual content space. So if I pause, we can see now we've immediately cut down a bit. We're no longer filling as much side to side. If I had to estimate, I'd say we probably have a good 6 inches there. Now look, the menus went away. We give it a couple seconds of holdover, and boom, we pop all the way back in. So if I pull the menu back up, and let's go even to more menu. I'm going to go down to the info size. Now there's even more information below the picture space, but the madVR is making adjustments. It's actually trying to act to minimize the amount of lost black space. So it's doing those kind of intermediate adjustments as what the Apple TV overlay is doing actually pulls up different levels of depth. We can see a pop and then another pop. The black bar information there is gone. If I go to the chapters, it's going to pop probably even again there, as we can see back to the bottom of the image. So the NV is working hard to fully minimize the amount of black space that shows up, while also giving you access to all of the content, menu, and picture information that's outside of the actual video presentation. So this is really useful if you're used to using lens memories and you're watching something on an Apple TV and you want to pull up these menus and you want to access this type of info, right? A lot of these elements, or some of these elements anyway, would be below the screen space. They would be outside of your lens memory zoom, and you would either be kind of navigating by memory or by hope in terms of trying to get access to all of that. So all in all, a very useful setting. How useful, again, depends specifically upon the menu system and the menu presentation of the app or the specific device that you're using. All right, for the subtitle adjustments, I want to use The Boys. We're looking here at Season 3, Episode 8. Crazy show. Actually, we can already see some of the menuing. I'm still on the Apple TV, and the Amazon Prime app actually has a lot more down below the image at this pause screen. So we're getting even more squishing. We can see there's a lot more kind of black bars on the outer edges of the screen. I think we're basically effectively back to almost a 16:9 style presentation. But I have the settings as I showed them in the menus earlier. I have the subtitle detection on. I have that 1% padding, and I have a 5-second hold. And so I'm going to play this scene here where these characters talk. Again, I'm going to blur out the actual video segment. She's a mute character, sign language character. So there we go. Amazon Prime puts the subtitles kind of about 3/4 outside of the image space, about 1/4 into the image space. And we can see she's saying multiple things. However, the image isn't popping. We're not popping directly in and out. And even right here, there's a little bit of a longer pause between her comments, between her statements, and the madVR, it zoomed down once through this whole type of conversation. And I'm going to let it go a little further, basically until she stops signing. Again, it's counting down those 5 seconds, and boom. Now that conversation is over. I'm going to go ahead and pause it. That conversation is over. We're back to no more forced subtitles, no more need of the subtitles, just characters always speaking. We're back to filling the image. So that's the benefit of using the subtitle detection. Of course, if I was using lens memories, most of that text would have remained cut off at the bottom of the screen, or I would have had to been kind of scrambling for my remote and adjusting down to a slightly different level of zoom to bring that stuff back in to the screen space and make it visible. But that was nice. That was nice and smooth, and everything worked really well there. I'm going to go back now, and we're going to make a change to the subtitle settings in the scene. And what we're going to change is I'm going to go ahead and change the bottom zoom stickiness basically to none. And we'll look at the difference between using a hold and not using a hold, and why having these configuration options in the video processor is so nice. So I'm going to go ahead and play. I'm going to get rid of the menus. We're filling the screen top to bottom, side to side. Envy's doing all the work. Now she's signing. We popped in. We're losing a few inches of space. We have a black bar on the bottom. She's signing quickly. It didn't pop between that one, but now that one's gone. We pop down. We pop back for the subtitle. She's signing more. Again, back down. And now there's a bit of a longer pause before her next statement. Back up. So this is the kind of thing. If this popping in and out as folks are talking, as these subtitles are happening on and off the screen is jarring to you, then you use those stickiness options. And we have quite a lot of them. Again, we can really tune this. None, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15, and then it starts going longer. 45 and up to multiple minutes, all the way up to an hour and a half. Or hey, just set it until the end of the movie. So again, depending on how sensitive you are to having that pop up, pop down, pop effect, you can set this specifically to how you're looking. I've been running it at 5 seconds, and I found that pretty good. Usually if there is a forced subtitle scene in a movie, it happens very deliberately. There's a conversation. 5 seconds is enough to hold between different elements or different statements of the subtitles and of the conversation. I may end up increasing this a little bit, though. I do find the jarring to be a little bit annoying, and I would prefer to run a setting that can pop down for the entirety of a specific subtitle sequence in conversation for the most part, or have the best chance of staying in that mode for the entirety of the conversation. And then that conversation is over, we're back to no subtitles and the regular movie itself. And then I would want it to come back to filling my screen. I'm definitely not one that would want to go for 90 minutes or for the entirety of the movie, unless it happens to be a very, very heavy subtitle movie. Depending on the sources that you're using in your home theater, this may be more important to you or important to your overall setup. Of course, if you're using a Kaleidoscape, the Strato has a option itself that allows you to always put subtitles within the screen space. So whenever possible, I would recommend that this is something that you want to use essentially as a last resort. You're always better off having the subtitles in the image screen space if you can. So if you're using a device, you're using a player that allows you to do that, you would certainly want to use it that way, but and then have this essentially clean up the rest of the cases where the content itself or the device itself or the app or whatever it may be that's playing that content doesn't give you the option and is putting things outside of the actual content image space. So there you go. I hope that was helpful. Definitely this aspect of video processing is one of the most helpful elements. It's one of the elements that makes a video processor just so usable in a cinematic scope presentation style home theater. Otherwise, it's just such a pain when you have information that can show up off of the picture space, off of the screen space, and you may be scrambling for your remote or kind of navigating menus blindly, or losing important information about the movie that you're watching or the TV show that you're watching if those subtitles are not visible when those characters are speaking that are not part of your language. So particularly for me as an English speaker, foreign speaking segments of a film, really important to have that text up on the screen where it's visible seamlessly, and I don't have to be grabbing my remote, I don't have to be recalling lens memories, adjusting for specific content. I can just let anything play and know that important information is always going to be in the screen space of my home theater presentation. And like most things in the madVR, again, very configurable, of course, with options to manage delays and sensitivities and all of that, so you can tune the behavior, the response of the device to suit the way that you would like it to be operating in your home theater system. So check out the other videos about the NV Extreme here on the channel and stick around for more content to come. If you'd like to buy one of these, check out my channel partners, particularly Audio Advice. Follow the links down in the description to buy this or other awesome home theater gear from them. Or if you're working with them on the phone, please do mention that Techthusiasm sent you. There are other ways to support the channel. Become a member if you're all into the regular Techthusiasm content and you'd like to see more. Leave a super thanks PayPal Venmo tip if this video helped you out. And shop with my other affiliates too. There's a bunch of them down there. Amazon, Best Buy, Newegg, Target, and more. Otherwise, please do that regular YouTube stuff. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, share the video, leave some comments and let's discuss. Do you use a madVR for this type of home theater video processing feature or another type of video processor as well? Sound off in the comments and let other folks know how great it is. How much do you like it? How much do you like having features like this in your home theater setup? Otherwise, come on back for more home theater discussion and fun. Thanks so much.